Hey, we're live. Woohoo! On
We are.
social everywhere. And oh, Troy Beats. Hey, we got some new people joining us. I gotta tell you, on the 5th of July, I thought we might have not so many people here because I don't know about you, but I'm pretty darn tired after yesterday. Who puts the 4th of July in the middle of a week and then works the next morning? Are you kidding me?
Well, you're the boss or
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
bosses. So you could have decided everybody got a week off, but you didn't. And
Oh my goodness.
although I think it was really hard to have Monday off and then Tuesday off, like it felt like it feels like the week's a waste.
It
But
does.
we're
Well,
going to make
hey,
it up right now
yeah.
because I am ready to work too, Fran. And we have got a really good topic today. So I'm super excited. So let's dive right into our episode recording, because then we'll drop off of the live stream. And all of you here watching the live stream, you need to join Monetize if you want to do a Q&A session with us. And that's where we mentor on all things podcasting.
Right. So all of you here live, we're going to have Q&A at the end, but we're going to stop broadcasting live for that, just to make that clear.
Live
okay,
stream.
Tracy. Live stream. What'd I say?
Broadcasting live. We're going to be live. We're just not going to broadcast to the live stream.
No, not broadcasting. Yeah. Cool. All right. So, and if there's any customers watching out there on social and you're like, hey, I don't understand. Where is this? Podcasts.com/events. You have to log in with your Zoom login. And if for some reason you're not registered or you need to be, reach out to us. We'll get you registered. And if you're not a customer, you get that free Q&A among other really good events that we have when you're our customer and you join us in our Zoom hub. Okay.
We did our AI lab yesterday, even though it was a holiday.
Well, you did a simu live on that one because it was a holiday, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, if you don't know what the Podcast AI Lab is, definitely check it out. There's we have a webpage, podcast.com/AI-podcast-lab. Nazanin will put a link here for those of you here on Zoom. Everybody who's a certain level of hosting customer gets that for free going forward. And if you're not, you can upgrade to that level. If you want to join, you can work it out. Reach out to us. All right. Do you want to start the show or do you want me?
Go ahead. You start.
All right. Hey, welcome back to Feed Your Brand. I'm Tom Hazzard, along with my co-host and better half, Tracy Hazzard. And today we're going to talk about YouTube podcasts.
Not YouTube videos, YouTube podcasts, which happen to be videos. Let's just be really clear here.
Right. YouTube podcasts, if you didn't know it, are a thing. It became a thing only about 2 months ago.
I think it was a little before that, but it's still, and it's parts of it are still in beta.
Yeah, it's within the last quarter. I mean, this is pretty new stuff. Well, from the time people listen to this as a podcast, it may be later than that. But as we're going live, it's that new. So we're going to talk about what you need to know to decide if it's worth your time. And I think I have an opinion on that. You probably do too, Tracy. But let's talk about it. Obviously, if you're doing a YouTube podcast, the first question on a lot of the listeners' minds, I think, especially if you're listening to this as a podcast audio on your favorite listening app, is, does it need to be a video? That's probably the first question, don't you think, Tracy?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it does need to be a video, but let's talk about this as a general concept. So what is a YouTube podcast? A YouTube podcast is a separated section. If you are a YouTube creator, you can see it very easily. It's super easy to be loading in. It must be a video. So on YouTube, if you're like using the desktop version of YouTube, or even if you're using it and you're subscribed to someone, you might see the podcast as a playlist, which many of you were already doing. If you're a podcaster and been a podcast for a while, you probably created a playlist for your podcast channel anyway. Now you just need to easily convert it over to being an official podcast within the system. But here's what I want to say to you. If you're not on YouTube at all, you're missing out. And that's the number one reason a podcaster should be thinking about a YouTube version of their podcast. And that is that there are 2 billion active users of YouTube. That's crazy numbers. On podcasting side, the last number check I had was 464 million worldwide podcast listeners. million, not 2 billion.
Right.
You're tripling the access you have. Just access now, mind you, not how many listeners are going to listen to your show or viewers that are going to view it, but you're opening your access to 3 times more people than you have in the podcast eco space.
Now, I will admit that most, I actually know of very few, probably count on the fingers of one hand out of 1,000 podcasts that we work with at Monetize that have a larger YouTube viewing audience than they do a podcast listening audience. So we're not saying necessarily you are going to have a bigger audience because you put a YouTube video out there, right, Tracy?
No, I'm not guaranteeing you anything like that. I just want you to understand that don't we all want more? We want more access to listeners, to viewers, to people who want to find our message.
More exposure.
And this is it's a bigger pond, right? Like it's an ocean, not a pond. Think about it that way. So that's the first reason why you should definitely consider YouTube podcasts. The second reason is it's new. And when anything is new, like YouTube Shorts, like, when anything's new over at YouTube, they dump more energy, focus into it. So here's what happened. Since I converted my show, The Binge Factor, our sister show here, to Feed Your Brand, and the same thing goes for Feed Your Brand, but just to understand the difference. When I converted that a couple of months ago, when they first alerted us that it was available, I converted it. So I did it immediately. And then we did a training for all of you out there, which we have if you need it. It's a podcast episode in Feed Your Brand if you're watching this on live stream. And if you're one of our clients, it's in our resource library, but you can ask anyone, but we've already done it for you. So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
but
if you're done for your production company, we already did this for you.
Yeah. So it's already happened, but it's basically an episode on how to designate your podcast as a YouTube playlist. That's all it is. It takes literally 1 minute. It's super, super easy. Now, if you don't have your podcast as a video, that's going to take a lot longer. So let's think about that. But we'll table that for later. But here's the thing. Once I converted our podcast to our existing podcast playlist to a YouTube podcast playlist under the official model, all of our podcast episodes, were being aired as YouTube podcasts, because we do have a video version. And so that's already happening. It's available in the YouTube Music app. So now it's on a different app on your phone, anywhere that you watch it. So it's not only available within the regular YouTube ecosystem as a playlist, but it's also available separately in the YouTube Music app. So now it's giving us more focus. Now, keep in mind, this is US only because it's in beta. So it's not worldwide. You won't get worldwide listeners. So it is still a subset and it's still being tested out. But from whenever someone watches one of our videos, you know what happens on YouTube when they watch a video? They get a whole bunch of other stuff that they sell them, that they're sending them to next.
Nuts. I watch a video and then that video ends and there's all this other stuff, and YouTube is like, throwing all these tennis balls at me of all sorts of other content, and I'm like, whoa. I'm just like, I'm getting out of here. I'm overwhelmed.
Here's the benefit to being a part of the YouTube podcast community. When you're on the watch page, you have a podcast badge, which you may not realize, and it doesn't always show up in everybody. They're testing the program, and sometimes it shows, and sometimes it doesn't. I found, but for the most part, you get this badge that says podcast. And if you have been seeing it on YouTube Shorts, you get a YouTube Shorts badge, so it's very similar. But your playlist, the rest of your episodes, are being served up. So if somebody watches one of your podcast episodes, they're being served up the rest of the podcast episode playlist, first and foremost. So you're keeping your potential for getting subscribers from it much, much higher by participating in the YouTube podcast program, as opposed to just putting up YouTube videos. So you're giving yourself a benefit by doing it. Then the next thing, so the episodes that you have, the next episodes are clearer. The links to all of them are much clearer to anyone. And it's all happening on that one single video watch page that is happening. So once they watch one episode, they're getting all that other, and they're seeing all of that. Secondly, when you go and have this double the footprint opportunity, I'm seeing a boost already. So what I've seen is that my video view is about a third. So if we have just a general video view or some of the older episodes that weren't in the podcast playlist, I'm seeing at least 2 to 3x minimum on the views that are happening in YouTube from previous to now.
So you've seen
already seeing a boost.
You've seen a lift in listenership. It's probably
viewership, if you want to think of it, not really listenership, because I'm not necessarily seeing that in my overall stats.
Podcast on my brain. Sorry.
Right.
Listen versus view. Yeah. So you're seeing a lift, and it's probably because of two key things. One, you mentioned that your viewers are not being distracted by other people's content when they're viewing it. That's probably number one. And number two probably is because YouTube is shining a pretty bright light on YouTube podcasts because it's new, right?
Well, it's not only that, but look, here's a couple of things, a couple of reasons why I'm going to say bullish on YouTube podcasts right now. What we're seeing is that not only do you double the size of the footprint, we're seeing a lift in it that is at least double in terms of the viewership than we were getting before from our regular YouTube videos. There are dedicated stats within the YouTube Creator Studio that are specific for podcasts. So you'll be able to track your stats there. And in those areas, I'm already seeing that lift. I'm already seeing that. And they're giving you an overview on the number of views, the watch time hours, specifically to the YouTube videos. So, it gets muddy in our YouTube channels because sometimes we have a lot of promo videos that are landing pages and they have high viewing hours or things that were webinars. But they're not our regular production content, right? They're not our stuff that we do every week. And because this is separated, you can actually see that different. And so I'm seeing a 66% lift in just the last month. And it's really only been, if you want to think of about 45 days even that we've been in this program. So it's just over that. But I've seen a 66% lift in my watch time hours on my podcast episodes from the prior month.
Wow.
That's a big lift.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Right? I'm seeing at least twice as many views. On some videos, I'm seeing 3 to 4 times that, but it's, building over time. And I can also take a look at my audience. And so when you're looking at the stats, so you can see when someone comes back who watched one video and returns to watch more. So I'm seeing a lift in returning viewers, but I'm also seeing a lot more unique viewers than I used to see before. So I used to see a lot of my subscribers watching those videos, and that was it. I wasn't seeing new people. I wasn't seeing a big percentage of new people, but now I'm seeing a larger percentage of new people, and I'm seeing more of those people return and watch more videos. That's a big deal. And they're watching all the way through or more for longer periods of times, because if you're getting more watch hours, you're seeing that significant lift. Now, if you're going for YouTube monetization, this is essential. And there are 3 reasons for that. The number one reason is that your watch hours matter in terms of your qualifications, and you have to have a continual number of watch hours every single month. You have to meet a minimum in order to stay enrolled in a monetization program with YouTube. So that's critically important. And so by increasing the number of minutes that someone's watching, you're increasing your watch hours without having to serve them up more content. You have to do a lot more work on YouTube Shorts to get the same number of watch hours, right?
Sure, much shorter videos, right?
Right. You can increase your views, but you can't necessarily increase your minutes. And so this is a great way to supplement that and make both happen. And so there's that. That's number one. Number 2, the regular CPM for a regular YouTube video is somewhere between $2 to $10, depending on the keywords, depending on the demand, depending on the type of video.
And for those new listeners to Feed Your Band, let's just quickly define CPM, clicks per mil or per thousand, right? So you're getting paid basically an amount of money for 1,000 views is what that
so
means.
Think about it
right?
on the low end, $2 for every 1,000 views.
Up to, you said what?
10.
10. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
That's low. I mean, it's pretty average in the internet in general, but it's low, right? The CPM averages for YouTube podcasts is between $18 and $50 right now.
Wow. So they're paying you more money when
9 to 10 times more.
When your YouTube channel, which is inclusive of YouTube podcasts, reaches the level of watching that you can monetize it, the views that are coming through your videos through YouTube podcasts you're being paid a higher rate for those ads. Did I hear you correctly there?
Right. Yep.
Wow. And it seems significantly higher.
And I think the reason is simply for what we know and we see everywhere else, and everything that I can find documented from YouTube is that they understand that conversion is higher on a podcast than it is in general videos.
People are choosing to watch it. This wasn't random, right?
Right. Yep. And so because of that, the conversion's higher, which is why the dollar amount is higher here. So they're seeing that, but I also think it's because it's a new program. They want to encourage more creators into the program. So now's the time to get in, because there are not as many people competing for those CPMs, and your likelihood for qualifying is high because there's more push happening right now as well. So this is a time, if you're looking to monetize your YouTube channel, this is the time to make sure that you have a podcast. If you don't have one already, you better get one. And if you have one already, convert it. Like, that's what we're telling you. Just convert it. Now, here's the key. If you don't do video, if you have audiograms and that's what you're doing, they must be full-length audiograms. It has to be the complete episode, not shorts or anything like that. But audiograms have half the viewership of ones with host featured.
You're saying videos that are like what you and I are doing right now, as obviously this is to those of you listening on Apple Podcasts or, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever you're listening on to us. We're recording this as a video, actually live to our community right now, and it's being published as a podcast and a YouTube video later. We're using Zoom to record. It is two talking heads that we have here, you and me, but we put this out as a video in YouTube podcasts. And so that's the kind of video you're saying is getting more engagement, because it's actually a video of us as opposed to an audiogram,
which is a static image that just has the audio file and the captioning running.
It's a still image with some motion for the captions and the audio waveform, but you're converting what was an audio into video when you create that. Right. But it has to be the full length, you said.
So here's my advice to you. If you don't have video recorded for all your older episodes, that's okay. Use the audiogram. It's better than nothing, but understand that you'll get half the viewership that you would get if it were real live. Switch over now, do live video, and start putting those videos in. So do live action, meaning person, do people, okay? And then put those into your YouTube podcast going forward, because you're going to double your potential for the listenership and then viewership. And that's essential, especially if you want to monetize on the other side of it. So the 3 reasons that I think that monetization is going is the CPM's higher, there's a bigger audience, there's the bigger push, but there's also the good stats to be able to be watching right now. And those stats, honestly, I think are better than the podcast stats that we're getting from Apple and Spotify and all the other places in terms of who's watching, what's happening with that. We're getting more data than we are on who's listening. And I think that's valuable to you in the long run if you truly want to take ads on your show eventually, or you want to have a different model of monetization. I think it's a great proof that you can monetize. So these are all the reasons I'm really bullish on YouTube podcasts, and you should jump on board. But make sure you have human video, like humans in your video, not audiograms. It's going to do better. It's more worth your time and effort.
Yeah, about half of our production customers do record and have us produce and publish their videos on YouTube and on their website, and half don't. Usually, some people are like, oh, it's just two talking heads, I don't want to do it, right? Or, I don't want to. I mean, I remember, Tracy, in the very beginning when we started podcasting a decade ago, you're like, heck no, I'm not recording video. I don't want to have to do my hair and makeup and worry about what I'm wearing every time. You remember that? And so how
Yeah, and
many
if you're
of
not
the
watching the video right now, you should check out my hair, because this is like what my hair looks like normally when I don't get it done. This is a post
okay,
pool day,
Tracy,
hair.
okay, reality moment here on this podcast. Nobody was thinking that your hair is not what it should be except you right now. So just putting
Right,
that
which is
out
my
there.
point, that I got over it, right? Like, I'll just show up
Right.
like this.
Because how many podcast episodes do you record now in 2023, Tracy, that are audio only versus audio and video? How many?
I'm trying to think. I can't think
Are
of
there any? I don't
There
think
aren't
there are.
any. Yeah,
Right.
it's never happens. And even if I'm not going to use the video for some weird reason, like occasionally in the resource library, we will use an audio only, but it's just very rare, but it does happen. But I'll record the video just to have it.
Well, and a lot, really, the majority of the tools people are using to record their podcasts have the capability to record video if they're not already automatically recording it. Just a lot of people aren't using it. I think when we especially are having a discussion with someone or interviewing someone remotely, we want to see each other, right? I mean, you reading the emotion of the other person and you feed off the emotion of the other person, I think makes even the audio publication as a podcast episode much more dynamic than if you didn't see them. So
This is really an
video.
interesting thing, because I think we'll probably I don't have the full statistics on it, but the stats say that a lot of people watch with the sound off on their video, but they'd rather watch human beings than watch with their sound off and just straight look at the captions on an audiogram. That's such a weird dynamic when you think about it. And I think it's because we prefer to watch people's emotions, even if we're reading the captions.
That could be. But the reality is, look, some people ask me, well, if I publish video, am I gonna have fewer podcast listens or vice versa? And I actually can tell you from long, hard experience here at Monetize, I don't believe so. Ultimately, people have their preference. Some people prefer to listen. Some people prefer to watch. Now, on social media, video catches, I think, people's attention more because that's just in social media. The little video clips and things get people's attention when it's pushed to you. But for content people are seeking to learn from, to educate themselves, they have a preference. And they will want to either listen or watch or read if they are if they're more would prefer to read an article or a blog. And while I do think that there is crossover, I mean, and when we record a podcast, if there is a real visual moment that the podcast listener, it's sort of going to be over their head because they're not seeing it, I will make a point of saying, hey, all of you listening out there on your podcast app, you're really going to want to go to the blog post at feedyourbrand.com and look at this portion of the video. You have got to see the expression on Tracy's face, or whatever it is that is the visual thing. Or we're showing something in a slide share and we describe what we're showing. Hey, go to the blog post and watch the video and see that. Or we might actually just have a screenshot of that as a still image there. You can give people a reason to go watch part of the other medium when it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I just want to reiterate and push that YouTube podcasts are succeeding at this stage. They're new, which is getting a little bump and we've seen this happen before, but YouTube doesn't really do things that often where it isn't the case that they are dedicated to it. Like, they rarely do something and then pull back on it. We've seen Apple pull back on their videos. We've seen Spotify not succeed with the videos at the same rate they thought, probably because they underestimated the fact that people join Spotify to listen, not to watch,
especially to listen to music more.
Yeah, it's not they've got the wrong demographic, if you want to think of it that way, right? As you were talking about, they're auditory people, right? And then they try to throw in visual. It just doesn't work as well. But YouTube already has the visual learners, right? They already have that audience, and they've decided that this is something worth pushing and putting into their whole ecosystem. I'm bullish on it. I think it's really working right now. I suggest you go out there and try it. I think it's worth your time and energy, and it shouldn't cost you anything extra. In fact, if you get into the monetization program, it should make you more money if you qualify over there. So it will definitely be worth it. So go ahead, join YouTube podcasts, make it work.
All right, Tracy. Sounds like a great place to drop the mic on this episode. Everyone, you can go check out the blog post for this episode and all of our others. There's a great search feature if you have something you're looking for in podcasting. Once you're in within a blog, there's this great search text feature there. On monetize.com, there's a Feed Your Brand page. So definitely go and check that out.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. Tom and I will be back next week with another live stream of our podcast tips and advanced tactics, and on here on Feed Your Brand, and of course another episode which will follow.
Drop just have that be it. That the outro will go good from there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop the live stream. Those of you on live stream, if you were here with us on Zoom, you could have Q&A, and boy, we have a few questions we're going to address. So we're going to go and do that now. For other than that, we'll see you all